Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel, Dina J from Around the Way. And today I'm going to highlight a few tips that will help you successfully win some of your ass during your custody battle. And always, I got my notes because I don't want to ramble or misspeak, so here we go. So the first thing that I'm going to suggest to you is to understand your finances entering to this. You need to be clear on what exactly you can invest in this court case, all right? You also need to be aware of once your retainer runs out, because most attorneys require a retainer, you need to understand how your money is going to be looking after that, okay? The other thing is that most times women are the ones that are impacted by this financially the most. And not to say that men can't be, but a lot of women end up suffering because our earning potential tends to be statistically lower than men. And then in certain instances, it is meant to drain us out on purpose so that we tap out. So we say, I can't no more. I can't go forward. I can't afford this. So you really need to understand what your finances look like so that you can deduce like, all right, well, this is how much I can invest into this case. And then you'll know where you have to compromise in order to end things, okay? The other thing is make sure that you know who to call on if you are in a bind. You are going to need a village in all aspects, right? So make sure that you can call on your friends or family members to help you out if you run out of money. You know, that happened to me a couple times where it was like, okay, I cannot make my mortgage payment and I cannot feed my child and I, but I definitely need to pay my attorney. So who am I going to call? And I definitely was able to get a little bit of assistance from family members and friends. Some family member just gave me the money and then friends loaned me the money, but I was able to just, you know, recover for that moment and keep my case going. Because as you know, if there is no money, there is no case, okay? And typically, if you could afford it, I would always advise hiring an attorney versus doing everything on your own or letting the state represent you. You can absolutely do everything on your own, and if you have the capacity, wonderful, right? But there are so many things in between, and especially if the other side has an attorney or representation, you don't want to be left out here bad, and you definitely want to be able to combat whatever comes your way from the other side. So I always recommend hiring an attorney. You can absolutely do everything yourself, but you must have the bandwidth to do that because it's a lot of work. The next one is choose the right attorney. I say that with everything that requires services or anything like that, you have to make sure that it's a good personality fit. Like with a therapist, an attorney, an accountant, anybody that's on your team of life, you need to make sure that they're a good personality fit. And one thing I will say, for me, I had a different divorce attorney than my custody attorney. So when I entered into my divorce, I had different needs, and my attorney at that time served that purpose. For this particular case, I needed something different. I needed a different approach. I needed something just totally different than what I experienced. And not to say that my first attorney was bad or anything, but she just had a different style. For this case particularly, it was so emotional, domestic violence and all these things that I just needed somebody a little bit more soft and caring. The other thing you want to be mindful of when you pick out an attorney is, does their billing structure work for you? Okay. Some attorneys are going to send you a monthly bill. Some attorneys are going to retain at every several dollars. Every attorney is going to be different. They run their businesses all differently. So you got to make sure that their billing structure is going to work for you. And let's say you run into a situation where you can't pay or something like that a certain month. Are they willing to work with you? That is also important to understand up front instead of assuming they can or cannot. That way you know, again, how to understand the process and where your finances are going to land you in that regard. The other thing that I appreciated about my attorney, and this is like the emotional intelligence piece that I so respected of her, is that there were, like any relationship, there's going to be times where communication kind of breaks, or something's not done exactly how you expected, or maybe you're just off, like you just did not know the process. And there were a couple of times, not many, in the 2 years that my case was just taking, that my attorney didn't quite approach certain things the way that I wanted to, or didn't quite hit the mark with certain asks or arguments. And I was able to express that dissatisfaction without it being an issue, without it being drama. She was able to receive it. She was able to explain to me where she was approaching things from versus where I may have thought it should have been. And then she course corrected. So that really helped our relationship over the course of the 2 years of my case. And then it also helped me just build a lot of trust in her. And I have mad respect for her because she was willing to listen in moments where, hey, she's an awesome attorney. Like, she was doing the things, but she was also able to take constructive feedback as a client that I was offering her and not take it personal or do an ego trip or anything like that, which I highly appreciated. The other thing about choosing the right attorney is that my attorney was very sensitive to the emotional toll the case was taking on me. She was very attentive. She was very in tune with, just the humanity in me, which I solely appreciate because, like I said, this was a very emotional case. I was triggered for so many reasons. I was triggered from past things that I went through in my marriage. I was triggered from current things that were happening. All this information that was coming my way, it was a lot. And it was highly emotional. So my attorney was able to say, listen, I get it, but I need you to focus on this, and this. And these are the areas where things are going well for us. And these are the areas where we might need to bend a little bit. And this is a true business transaction. This is business, right? This is a transactional relationship because I hired her for a service, but I can appreciate that the fact that she had the emotional intelligence to understand what I needed in certain moments where I was about to crash out or just freaking out about the direction that my case was going, and kind of hone things in for me. So that is something that I think is very important when you are choosing the right attorney. Depending on your needs, you may be a business, just get to the facts, let's get it done. Or you may need somebody that can understand and kind of walk you through some of the emotional things that may come up in your case. That way you can have that balance. The other thing is to document everything. This is a tip that I wish more people took seriously. Document everything. Okay, the reason I say that is because my ex, he would agree to certain things or say he was good with certain things or I'm cool with that, I'm not cool with that, and then renege. The minute he got upset, the minute that things didn't go his way or I couldn't make an adjustment to the schedule or something, then he would renege on some of the agreements that we have or just make it harder on me to navigate, right? So in that regard, I always say document everything. I'm not an historian, but I'm going to keep track of the things. I'm going to have my receipts, okay? I'm going to have a long receipt of the things, okay? Because the proof is always going to be worthwhile having when you need to present a fact or, you have an argument for something. So document everything. It's a screenshot, an audio or video or email. Don't throw away anything that you may need later. Don't trash it. Put it in a folder just in case. Most of us know our exes really well. And I knew my ex really well in the sense of some of the tactics and the games that he would play. So in that regard, I made sure that I took screenshots of everything and kept everything for that purpose. And it really served me well. It really did. Okay, the other thing that people don't really think about is that you should be doing your research on everybody on your legal team. Do research on your attorney. Check out their social media platforms. Look at their website. Check out their reviews. Check out the judge. See what's out there. See what they've written. See any newsletters or articles or publications that they have out there. It would help you understand a little bit of the framework of how they think, right? We all know that in legalese, it's supposed to be unbiased. It's supposed to be fair. It's supposed to be this and that. But like we know, the reality of life is that people are biased. So it's really good to understand like everybody that is a part of your legal team, including the opposing party's attorney. If they have a website or if they have anything out there, just see where they are coming from when it relates to anything family law related or anything along the lines of where the direction of your case is going, so that you can understand exactly what you're dealing with. It's not going to make your case better or worse, but it helps you understand what you're dealing with. The GAL. The GAL is a biggie, biggie, biggie. I think I made a mistake not researching the GAL even more than I did. The funny thing about the GAL is I actually knew who he was. We actually played on a softball league together. So I knew him. We didn't know each other personally, but I definitely knew of him. And for whatever reason, me having that little bit of a knowledge of him made me feel comfortable, but it was not a good thing because he was horrible at his job. And he didn't show up, like I mentioned in other videos. He was late. He did not thoroughly investigate what he needed to investigate. He didn't know what I was referencing when he interviewed me, and I had given him all the evidence and all of the supporting documents. He never looked at it, nothing. So when it came to the GAL, after he was assigned to my case, after he started not showing up, after I started to see that incompetence, I started to look into him, and there were so many negative reviews about him. So many negative reviews. The thing about the GAL or the guardian ad litem that you might need to fight for is that unfortunately they're assigned by the court, but you can absolutely request somebody else if you feel like they're just either leaning on one side more than the other. They're not hearing you. They're not thorough. They're not showing up. You should be able to request that. It might delay your case a little bit, but yeah, make sure that you understand everybody on your legal team, from the judge to the GAL to the attorneys. Of course, you know your ex, yourself, and how to set your expectations on some of the outcomes that may arise during your case. All right, moving right along. The next thing I will say, speak up for yourself. You have every right to speak up for yourself, even when you have representation. You do. While your attorney is meant to represent you and speak on your behalf and just fight for whatever it is that you are requesting or whatever your custody battle is battling, you have the right to raise your hand. You have the right to interject. You have the right to speak up for yourself. And there's a way to do it respectfully so that you're not like blurting in or just jumping in. You can easily be like, okay, Your Honor, if I may, you raise your hand, or if you need to provide a point of clarification, if your attorney kind of said something or missed something in whatever argument, you can absolutely add to that. You can absolutely add to that. The judge sometimes will defer to your attorney first. In my case, that happened a couple of times where I raised my hand or I had a point of clarification, and the judge would say, well, attorney Joe Schmo, do you want to allow your client to speak? And my attorney was great on that end, and she always let me speak because she knew that I was going to be appropriate and respectful, and it wasn't going to be anything outlandish. So because of that, I was able to just clarify things, or if somebody was going in a direction that really didn't coincide with where things were for my case, I was able to speak up for myself. Speak up for yourself. You have every right to do so, and I encourage it, especially if things are going a little haywire or somebody forgot to mention something, or shoot, your ex is stepping in and saying things. You have the absolute right to do that for yourself. And then the other thing in speaking up for yourself is, like I alluded to a moment ago regarding the GAL, I should have spoke up long before about my dissatisfaction with the GAL. And not because he wasn't working in my favor or he was, not agreeable to the things that I wanted. It wasn't even about that. It was just more so his lack of attention to the case. Not showing up for hearings, not showing up for statuses, not showing up for depositions, being late to trial, like considerably late, hours late to trial. Why are you here? So I wish that I would have nipped that in the bud early on and spoke up way sooner. But at the time that my attorney and I were kind of deliberating on that, it was a little too late. And we just worked around him. Like, we just did not utilize his expertise or anything, or bring him in for anything else, because I was like, I'm not paying for any more of his services because he's literally doing nothing. And, you can reference the playlist if you want to get a little familiar with some of the other nuances of my case. The playlist is available for you. The next thing that I would suggest is to take copious notes. Take copious notes of everything. I'm a very type A personality. I need to make sure that I am following. I need to have my own stuff. I don't rely on other people to give me information. Sometimes I jump ahead and I'm like, no, I gotta know this for myself. And when I say take copious notes, I mean, after every hearing or status or any meeting, document what you can. Make sure that you understand what you interpreted. Get it on paper. Make it succinct, bullet points, all of that. And that way you have a paper trail of everything that had gone on during your status hearing trial. And then you also can reference certain things if your attorney and your attorney kind of forgot what the judge said or whatever. In the perfect world, everything that happens during a hearing, a trial, or status is documented, right? But it's very high level. And I think sometimes things get lost in translation when there's negotiations and things like that. So for me, it was helpful because it helped me understand what I needed to keep track of, or what the next steps were. It also gave my attorney the opportunity to clarify anything that I may have misinterpreted, or to give me a little bit more insight on a process. Or I was always confused as to whether we were in a trial or a hearing or a status, and then having certain expectations during certain court visits. And doing this note-taking and regurgitating back in email and bullets and things like that really helped me keep track of how my case was doing, and also understand what was going on. I would also, in my notes, just document next steps. So I would say, okay, well, now that this happened, this is what I understand is happening next. And either my attorney would, she would correct it, or she would confirm it. But it limits like the phone calls and, all of that. It gives time for people to just read an email. Trust me, I will say, given how billable things are, reading an email than talking on the phone is far cheaper for an attorney. As long as it's not like a synopsis or a book that you're writing, like a nice, concise email with bullet points straight to the point really helps your billing. Okay? All right. The next thing that I would suggest is to have strong arguments for your ask. Have very strong arguments for your ask. Most custody cases will involve making changes to your parenting plan. And you need to comb through that document. If you have a document already drafted, or if you're drafting a parenting plan, you need to comb through that really well and understand where you are asking for changes and why you are asking for those changes. Make sure that any revision or anything that you're making to the documents, that you save any revised copy. I will say that the other side was being very slick in removing certain things from the parenting plan or making changes, not thinking that we would catch them. So what I did to make sure that I caught everything was I saved every red line copy that would came back and forth between us so that we can see what was changed. And I did that more so for peace of mind, because there were definitely times when we caught something, we were like, that was never in there, or that was taken out. No, that needs to be added back in. The other thing is that you need to make sure that your emotions are out of it, right? If you object to anything in the plan, like, talk to yourself and think about why. Answer the question, why does this bother me? Why don't I like this request or this parenting situation? Think about it and make sure that it's not coming from an emotional place. If it's coming from an emotional place, remove it. Remove it out of your ask, because it's not in the best interest of the child that you're focused on. You're focused on your personal emotions. Everything, especially in a custody battle, needs to go back to the best interest of the child, not how you feel. We most times when we're in these type of custody battles, we don't like our exes, right? If I could never see my ex again in life, I would be perfectly fine. But that's not where we are. I, have a son with him. I was married to him. So boom, here we are. So in that case, I needed to be very intentional about always remembering that what I am fighting for is because it's truly in the best interest of our son. Not because it's convenient for me, not because I just want to spite him. It's truly in the best interest of our son. And that was really difficult to be in these type of situations with somebody that has disrespected you, lied to you, hurt you, cheated on you, abused you, all the things. Like, it's hard to take the emotion out, but you have to really work at it. And that's why I also suggest to have a good thing in place, a system in place to make sure that you are working through your mental health, physical health, and all the things, because it will take a toll on you. The next thing that I I wish I would have done this throughout the whole time of my case: hire a court reporter. I don't think you need a court reporter for every single status or meeting you have in front of the judge, but absolutely you need to hire a court reporter for a deposition. You need to hire a court reporter for any hearing that you have, and you need to hire a court reporter for any trial. And I regret not doing that throughout my whole case. I hired a court reporter during the deposition when Dodo Bird / Paramore needed to be deposed and she got interviewed for her testimony. We had a court reporter for that. I so wish we had a reporter for the first attempted trial in July of 2023. Because had I had a court reporter then, we wouldn't have ended up doing another trial, a year later, because a lot of the things that we agreed upon and whatever, they try to renege on. And then the judge I'll say she didn't really take good notes about what she ruled on and things like that. So she was working off her memory. If we had a court reporter, then we would have definitely had someone to document everything that happened, word for word, verbatim. And that way we had that as a point of evidence, to reference if we had to go back to anything and say, oh, no. This is what we discussed during this hearing. So don't try to play us and say you're not agreeing now. And that happened a lot. And the sucky part is that people can say, oh yeah, I'm good with that today. And then next week they can decide, you know what? I don't like that anymore. So we're changing it. And that definitely happened throughout my whole case. So just know that's a part of the shenanigans. But if I would have hired a court reporter, it would have been easy to just reference some of the things that we talked about. And then also the judge will be able to see like, oh, wait a minute. Y'all are playing games here. Like, we already decided on this months ago. Why is this coming up again? So hire a court reporter. Okay. The other thing that I know that is super hard for people to do is to talk to people. Talk to people outside of your legal team about your case. Talk to people outside of the case in itself, like the situation, right? So you don't want to talk to like your mom or people that are emotionally invested in the case, but you definitely want to talk to people that you know and you trust and you feel comfortable about your case and that may have had similar experiences to yours, right? this helped me immensely when I decided to just get over the fact that I didn't want people in my business, when I decided to get over the fact that I was embarrassed about the situation, when I decided to get over all of that, and I decided to just talk to people about what I was going through. The amount of information that I learned about people on my legal team, about things that I could ask for in my case, and even about just the general overall like family law process. It gave me insight from a perspective that was not legal, and also helped me tie in some of the loose ends of the directions that my case could go in, right? So I talked to divorced mothers. I talked to, people that actively went through custody battles. I talked to them and I asked questions, and they guided me on some of the things that I should have asked for or should be prepping for the case. And with some of that, I was able to take it back to my attorney. Those things really helped me win some important matters to me during my case. So talk to people. It is hard. I know. It is embarrassing. I know. And you are going to feel like, dang, but the minute you talk to people, like, you realize that you're not alone in this. Nothing's new under the sun. So you're not the first person to go through things like this, and they can guide you. They can really guide you. So I always say, talk to people about what you're going through, because it definitely helps. Even my therapist, she has clients and things like that may have gone through similar things. So without disclosing any of their personal information, she was also able to give me insight on how certain things work within the court, and how she's had to sit in on certain cases before regarding, how it's affecting her client and things like that. So talk to people. Okay, and be honest about what you're going through. Like, yes, you might be very embarrassed. You might hate the situation, but the more that you are honest and can just be authentic about how you're feeling about all of this, the more guidance you can get. So talk to people. So that summarizes all the tips that I can offer you in order to successfully win some of your asks during your custody case. And to summarize them, understand your finances, okay? Choose the right attorney, okay? Document everything. Do your research on your legal team and everybody involved with your case. Speak up for yourself. Take copious notes. Have strong arguments for your ask. Hire a court reporter. And then talk to people. I guarantee you that some of these tips will allow you to really, really be successful, really set your expectations, really help you navigate how your court case is going and all of the things that come with that. All right. I was in court for 2 years, so trust me, I got a lot that I can share. So thank you so much for joining me. If you've ever been in a situation like this, if you're currently going through a custody battle, if anything with my content resonates with you, please drop down in the comments and tell me a little bit about your story. Tell me if I could help you with anything. Again, this is not legal advice. I'm just sharing my experiences, but I am an open book when it comes to this, and I'm also willing to help with anything I can in this regard. So please drop down in the comments. Let me know a little bit about your story. And if you are enjoying my videos, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And you can also find me on all socials, okay? In the next video, I will probably be breaking down my allocation judgment, just so that you can get your wheels turning on some of the things that you need to include in your parenting plan, or even some modifications or adjustments that you might want to make when you're drafting a parenting plan, and I'll share that. So that will be the next video, and then until then, I'll see you next time. All right? Bye! Nos vemos. Hasta luego. Yeah, hasta luego. Bye!